All right, let's talk a little bit about site speed and website site speed and websites and people's obsession with site speed. And yeah, just I think site speed is interesting, and I think it also gives us another layer of kind of depth into Google, right? So it kind of gives us something to talk about Google, um, and how they communicate. So first, let's talk about site speed. You know, there's a few tools, GT metrics, page speed insights that people use to see how fast their site is, right? Tells you how fast did it load, painful content, that kind of stuff, right? And a lot of people who are in web design or web development, they love this, right? I think it gives them a selling point beyond um, just designing a website that they can lean on to prove their worth. And, I mean, I think it does show you if somebody's a good developer, whether they can get their site speed up to a 1 millisecond speed, but does it help you as a business? Now, I was obsessed with site speed when I first started getting websites built and doing websites. It was a long time ago, but I remember the funniest part about website speed when I was looking for people was everyone talked about it, but no one had it implemented on their own websites. So the way that I would test people out is I'd ask them for websites where I'd go find their homepage, not the websites that they do, the website they use for themselves, go find that and then test that page. And it was so funny to see how slow those pages were. So it's like you don't care about site speed, you just say what people want to hear, right? And then the guy I ended up hiring to build this big website that I had a few years ago, um, his site was boom, the fastest. So I hired him, and yeah, that was great. But in the end, it helped me to have such a focus on site speed. So I think SEO to me is all about testing things and trying not to listen to what other people say is correct. Listen to what people say they think is correct. That's good, but then never listen to what they actually are saying. You got to test it for yourself and see how it works. And I think site speed is a perfect example of this because if you test site speed as a ranking factor, it will fail in almost every case. So, here's one of the top ranked businesses in the Boise area where I am. And you can see that here on mobile, they have failed. They have awful loading speed, awful everything. Their performance is awful, right? So I don't really want to call them out. That's not my point here. It doesn't really matter. I mean, there's somebody I actually admire a lot and try to research and study what they do a lot. But I did think it was funny that they have this awful 37% E rating, A being the best on their website. And they're the number one HVAC company in the Boise area. So it's like, okay, there we go. There is an example of where site speed fails us as a metric for ranking. So if you are going to go out and try to do something with your website or your business to try to get you more leads, focusing on your site speed, not a good idea. Not something you need to waste your time on. So with that being said, I think there's a good lesson here because Google likes to say that site speed matters. They used to say that it mattered a lot. Now they've kind of backed off of that, but I don't trust Google. I think they've already proven time and time again that what they say and what they do are completely different things. I don't know what the point is. Apparently they're just selfish and self-obsessed. That seems to be the best way to look at it. Every time there's one of these arguments about what matters, you can usually come back to Google and what benefits Google. So, like in this site speed example, if your websites are if everyone's websites are moderately slow, okay, let's say you can have a minute or you can have a 1 second loading, a 2 second loading, and a 3 second loading site, right? Well, for a person, that doesn't matter. Most people are going to wait. Where this can hurt you is if your site speed is really bad, and I'll talk about that in a second. But who benefits the most from shaving a 3-second site, shaving off 33%, right? Or 66% of that time? Well, there's only one person who's crawling the entire internet all day, every day with resources. So that means they can get 3 times as much done if everyone's sites are loading at 1 second instead of 3 seconds, right? So Google is the one who benefits the most from the site speed argument and trying to make sure that sites load quickly. They're the beneficiary of that, no one else. So it was in their best interest to push that. I think that's always what it comes down to when it comes to what Google says. Look for the self-serving reasons, and then, as an SEO, you want to test and figure out what's actually working and see what you can do there, and see how much it affects you, because otherwise you just end up spending a bunch of time doing a bunch of tasks that end up having no actual impact on your website or on your ability to get leads and traffic. Now, when does site speed actually affect you? That's the last thing I want to talk about. Yeah, if it's so slow that people are bouncing. If you don't know what bouncing or bounce rate is an older metric that isn't really used as much, but it still is in play. It's basically if somebody goes to your website and then they go immediately back off, that's like the worst possible thing. It means to Google that whatever that person was looking for, they did not find it, especially if it's like they didn't scroll or anything. They just went straight back. So if your site is not loading and people can't get it to load or work correctly, and they swipe back or they go backwards, and that happens enough times, that's going to start to have a deleterious impact on your rankings. You're going to drop. So you want to make sure that your site is working properly. I'd say that's even more of an issue, I think, for people than speed, is that it's working properly, something isn't broken, especially on mobile, and that people are able to access it, see everything organized properly like it's supposed to be seen. And that's I think the best way to approach site speed is more of an efficiency for the user and them being able to see your website and that it loads correctly than that you're trying to shave off another millisecond of time. So that's what I got for today, and we'll see you tomorrow.